Ever feel like you're drowning in information? Like every time you try to learn something new, it just leads to more and more tabs open and
Information overload.
exactly. So today we're tossing you a life preserver, powerful focus.
Ooh, I like that.
We're diving deep into Thibaut Meurisse's book, Powerful Focus, a 7-day plan to develop mental clarity and build strong focus. No endless scrolling, no overwhelm.
Just the good stuff.
Yeah.
And that good stuff comes in a very specific format.
Oh,
Powerful Focus is actually part of a whole productivity series by Meurisse, and he even offers a free workbook to go along with it. So
that's awesome.
you can put these ideas into action immediately.
I love that. So consider this deep dive your crash course in Meurisse's 7-day plan. We'll be hitting the highlights from identifying love-based versus fear-based goals to ruthlessly eliminating distractions.
Sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way.
Yeah.
But rather than just summarizing each day, we'll pull out those aha moments that can make a real difference in your life.
It all starts with clarity, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. You can't hit a target. You can't see right.
Right. Meurisse kicks off day 1 with 15 questions to identify what you want. Now, I know what you're thinking, another self-reflection exercise.
I've been there.
But trust me, some of these questions are seriously thought-provoking.
Like, for example, he asks, if you were to wake up tomorrow completely alone with no obligations or expectations, what would you do differently? Imagine no job to go to, no family to take care of.
Wow.
Just pure freedom. How would your choices change?
That's such a powerful question. It cuts through all the external noise and forces you to confront what truly matters to you.
Precisely. And that brings us to day 2, where Meurisse introduces this fascinating concept of love-based versus fear-based goals.
Okay.
I know it sounds a bit woo-woo at first, but bear with me. It's about recognizing the underlying motivations behind our desires.
Okay. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Think of it like this. Fear-based goals stem from a place of scarcity, a desire to avoid something negative or prove yourself to others. You might chase a promotion to avoid getting fired or start a business to gain validation from your family.
Love-based goals, on the other hand, come from a place of abundance and a desire to create, contribute, and express your authentic self.
Yeah.
You write that book because you have a story burning inside you.
Right?
Or you volunteer your time because it fills you with joy.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Fear-based goals can be incredibly motivating in the short term, but they often lead to frustration and burnout. You're always chasing something external, and there's always another hurdle to clear. Love-based goals, on the other hand, are more intrinsically rewarding.
Absolutely.
This is hitting home for me. I spent years chasing this dream of being a famous musician, but it was all driven by a fear of being ordinary, of not living up to some external expectation. It wasn't until I shifted my focus to simply making music that I loved sharing it with the world that I actually started to feel fulfilled.
That's a great example of how a shift in mindset can completely transform your experience. And this leads perfectly into day 3, where Meurisse tackles the challenge of choosing the right tasks to achieve our goals.
Right.
It's not enough to just be busy.
Right.
We need to be productive.
And that's where a lot of us get tripped up, right? We get caught in this whirlwind of activity, but we're not actually moving closer to our goals.
Meurisse uses a brilliant analogy from his own experience to illustrate this point. He talks about how he wasted countless hours on ineffective book marketing tactics that everyone else was recommending instead of focusing on the strategies that were actually working for him.
He was like that woodpecker Seth Godin talks about, tapping on 1,000 trees and getting nowhere, just staying busy. It's so easy to fall into that trap, especially in today's world of endless distractions and shoulds.
Right. It's not just about working hard. It's about working smart. And that's where Meurisse's concept of developing an accurate model of reality comes into play.
I love that concept.
This is the focus of day 4.
It reminds me of that saying, the map is not the territory. We often operate based on assumptions and beliefs that may not be entirely accurate, which can lead us down the wrong path.
Absolutely. Meurisse argues that having the right assumptions about how things work is crucial to choosing effective strategies and tactics. He stresses the importance of understanding the 80-20 principle, the idea that 80% of our results come from just 20% of our actions. So the question becomes, are we focusing on that crucial 20%?
Okay, so how do we actually figure out what that 20% is? How do we build that accurate model of reality?
Meurisse offers a few suggestions. First, be willing to question your assumptions. What beliefs are you holding on to that might be limiting your progress? Are you clinging to outdated strategies because that's how you've always done things?
He also talks about the importance of seeking out feedback and learning from others who have achieved what you're aiming for. It's like getting a sneak peek at their map so you can avoid some of the detours and dead ends.
Crucially, he emphasizes the need for experimentation.
Yeah.
You can't build an accurate model of reality just by reading about it. You have to get out there and test your assumptions in the real world.
Hmm.
You might find that some of your cherished beliefs are totally off base, and that's okay. It's all part of the learning process.
So we've got clarity on our goals, we've identified our love-based motivations, and we're starting to build a more accurate model of reality. What's next?
Well, now that we've laid the foundation, it's time to tackle those pesky distractions and obstacles that inevitably get in our way. That's what we'll pick up in part 2. So building on this idea of clearing the path to your goals,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's talk about distractions.
Oh, yes.
We've all been there. You sit down with the best intentions to focus, and all of a sudden your phone is buzzing. Emails are popping up, and that tempting article about the history of cheese just has to be read right now.
Oh, the cheese article struggle is real. I know exactly what you're talking about. But Meurisse doesn't just tell us to be more focused. In part 2 of his book, he really gets down to the nuts and bolts.
Gives us the tools.
Yeah, he gives us concrete strategies for actually eliminating those distractions and obstacles.
Day 5, for example, is all about ruthless elimination. And this isn't about being mean or cutting people out of your life.
Yeah.
It's about being fiercely protective of your time and energy. Maurice gives us 3 techniques to accomplish this.
One that really resonated with me is the blank slate technique. Instead of trying to declutter your existing schedule, imagine you have a completely empty calendar. What would you choose to put on it? What activities truly align with your goals and values?
It's a powerful reframing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from what you need to eliminate to what you actually want to prioritize. It's like Marie Kondoing your schedule, keeping only the things that spark joy and purpose.
No, I love that. And speaking of things that don't spark joy, let's talk about saying no. This is where I personally struggle. I always feel guilty turning people down like I'm letting them down somehow.
Maurice addresses this head on, reminding us that saying no is not selfish, it's self-respect. Remember, you're not just saying no to a task or request, you're saying yes to something else. Your own priorities, your well-being, your goals.
He has this great line in the book, make no your default answer. That really struck me. Instead of automatically saying yes and then trying to figure out how to get out of it later, start with no and then only say yes if it truly aligns with your values.
It's about setting boundaries and protecting your time. He even suggests practicing your no in advance, so you're prepared when those requests inevitably come your way.
Okay, I love that mental rehearsal for those awkward situations.
Yeah.
Now, another challenge Meurisse tackles is the overwhelming influx of information we face every day. Day 6 is all about reducing useless input, and boy, do I need this.
It's easy to get sucked into that endless scroll, thinking you need to be constantly learning and consuming information to stay ahead. But Maurice argues that all this input can actually lead to paralysis.
Right.
We get so bogged down in research and theory that we never actually take action.
It reminds me of that phenomenon of shelf-help people who buy tons of self-improvement books but never actually implement the advice.
Exactly. And Maurice has a rather bold suggestion to combat this, a 30-day learning fast. No new books, articles, podcasts, courses, just focus on applying what you already know.
Wow, a 30-day learning fast. I don't know if I'm ready for a full-fledged fast, but I love the idea of being more intentional about the information I consume. Meurisse recommends defining clear learning goals before you even start reading or watching anything. Ask yourself, what specifically am I trying to learn? Why do I need to know this? And how will I use this knowledge?
It's like having a shopping list when you go to the grocery store. You're less likely to come home with a bunch of junk food if you know exactly what you need.
That's so true. And this leads to his point about reversing the learning to action ratio. Most of us spend way too much time consuming information and not enough time actually implementing it. So the challenge is to flip that script. Do more, study less.
It's about shifting from passive consumption to active creation. Which brings us to day 7, where Maurice focuses on eliminating friction and energy waste.
This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of optimizing our daily routines right, making it easier to do the things that support our goals and harder to fall into those distracting habits.
Exactly. One key principle Maurice highlights is the importance of minimizing willpower. Our brains are wired to conserve energy, so they're constantly looking for the path of least resistance.
So if we want to make positive changes, we need to make those desirable behaviors as frictionless as possible and those undesirable behaviors more difficult.
For example, if you want to write every day, set up a dedicated writing space. Make sure your writing tools are readily accessible, and maybe even turn off your Wi-Fi and put your phone on airplane mode.
Ooh, that's good.
Remove any barriers that might tempt you to procrastinate.
I do this with my workout clothes. I lay them out the night before, right next to my bed, so there's no excuse not to exercise in the morning.
That's a great strategy. It's all about anticipating those moments of resistance and setting yourself up for success. Now, when it comes to eliminating energy waste, Meurisse emphasizes the importance of daily planning.
I've heard this before, but I have to admit, I'm not always consistent with it. What's the main benefit of daily planning, in your opinion?
It reduces decision fatigue. Think about it. You wake up in the morning and you're immediately bombarded with choices. What should I eat for breakfast? What should I wear? What should I work on first? All these decisions drain our mental energy, leaving us less focused and productive throughout the day.
That makes a lot of sense. So by planning out our day in advance, we're essentially offloading some of that decision-making, freeing up our mental bandwidth for the tasks that truly matter.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Simply taking a few minutes each evening to jot down your top 3 priorities for the next day can make a huge difference.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from clarifying our goals and motivations to eliminating distractions and optimizing our routines. It's a lot to take in, but it's clear that Meurisse has a very holistic approach to developing powerful focus. It's not just about willpower or productivity hacks, it's about creating a life that supports our deepest values and aspirations.
Yeah, it really is about aligning our actions with our intentions. Meurisse's 7-day plan isn't just about checking boxes.
Yeah.
It's about creating sustainable change, building those focus muscles, so to speak, for the long haul.
Yeah, and that's a key point. Meurisse emphasizes that even small, consistent efforts can yield significant results over time.
Absolutely.
It's like compound interest. Those little deposits of focus and intention add up to something much bigger.
So true.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed right now listening to this, don't worry. You don't have to tackle everything at once.
Right.
Maybe you start by asking yourself those 15 clarifying questions we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Or maybe you experiment with a mini learning fast just a few days to see how it feels. Even something as simple as setting aside 15 minutes each morning for focused planning can have a ripple effect on your entire day. The key is to find what works for you, what resonates with your unique goals and lifestyle.
And don't forget, Meurisse offers a free workbook to accompany the book. It's packed with exercises and templates to help you put these principles into practice. You can find it at whatispersonaldevelopment.org, powerful-focus.
Now here's something to ponder as you embark on your own journey toward powerful focus. Imagine your attention as a spotlight. What are you choosing to illuminate right now? Is it aligned with your deepest values and aspirations? Or is it scattered and diffused, illuminating things that ultimately don't matter?
That's such a great metaphor. It really reminds us that we have the power to choose where we direct our attention, our energy, our focus. It's a continuous practice, a conscious effort to shine that spotlight on the things that truly matter.
Because when we master that skill, when we learn to harness the power of our focus, we unlock incredible potential. We become more productive, more creative, more fulfilled, not just in our work, but in every aspect of our lives.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into powerful focus. We hope you've gleaned some valuable insights and practical strategies to help you cut through the noise and achieve your goals.
Remember, it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about progress. Start small, be consistent, and trust the process.
Until next time, stay focused.